Hello, this is Alechius, and welcome back to Sprocket, which apparently is starting to become its own series by popular demand. There's not a lot of content in the game, so I will need some suggestions, things you'd like to see, things you'd like to try out. For this moment, though, I'd like to showcase some of what I did yesterday, which culminated in this 2.8 ton crazy, silly tank destroyer nonsense, which has so few gears it has trouble steering. Like, I should probably remove the twin transmission and go back to clutch based. Still fast. It's a single person. Gunner, loader, driver, all in one. If I can avoid the counterfire. It is this tiny. The enemy will leave me alone long enough. Oh, I think I shot under. Doesn't quite fit under a Panther. Come on, elevate. Oh, it's so slow. Keep going. Oh no! So yeah, this one has problems, but that was the end of an iterative design cycle to make the smallest, lightest, most cursed nonsense at 2 meters and 1.4 meters wide. If we go backwards through it, we have the micro. It's 3.7 tons, and not all settings are saved. Or there's a floating point decimal somewhere. I'm not sure. The turret ring diameter really fails for one reason or another. So I always end up having to adjust things slightly. That's kind of easy, since we can adjust the sponson. Why I now favor having sponsons. It allows me to tweak for just the right amount. Something like that. This one is actually pretty useful. Triumph's Micro. This was the tank I showed off in the previous episode. Just smaller. And now more optimized for space and to maximize the number of ricochets. This is going to be hard. Layout's semi-random. Missed. Got the Super Cromwell. She's down. Get up to speed, get up to speed. Cursed trees. I saw somebody back here. Clear to the right. We'll head up to the Panther from the looks of it. Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. Get behind the Panther. Doobie doobie. Oh. Oh, it's a King Tiger. And the Cromwell shot it. Well, dude, I'm shoot him. There goes the Super Cromwell. This one is a two-man tank. Very cramped conditions. You want some angle? Okay, he's not even close to it. One or two tanks left. Sure. I think we'll get to shoot this one. The elevation is very poor. There were design sacrifices that were needed. Oh, I think that one is already dead. As you've seen, this can successfully take on the late war scenario tanks. That's the Super Cromwell that I took out. I believe it is. Yep, and we'll fire on the back deck. That one is definitely down. Did somebody cross successfully then? Oh, and a nice touch is that the game draws rings on the barrel for every tank you kill. Like this specific tank has killed 2 tanks, I think. Does it have the stovepipe on the back deck? No, it does not. I think we found our culprit. It's not traversing though. Got fire. Okay, that's not the one that's alive. Where's this last tank? There are friendly AIs trying to go. But it draws little rings. This barrel's a little bit too stubby to really see that. But you can see that this mission was successful. It's just a little bit longer than that tank destroyer, since this was the one optimized just before that, and before we removed the turret and a crew member. 2.2 meters long, 1.4 meters wide. A lot of the rest of it doesn't matter. It's made to just get to exactly the right amount of space. The lower is 0.5, the upper is 0.1. That's just that part that's extruding is the sponson. The turret traverse is 42.6 degrees per second on a hand crank with a turret ring diameter of 3/4 of a meter, 30-degree slope on the cheeks, front and back, more or less. I adjusted this one to get just the right amount of space to save mass. And yeah, I balanced front and back. And then the mobility, it's using twin transmission. All of the Triumphs do. Tracks have been shrunk down to 0.2 and otherwise pretty much minimized across the board. I did use a single return roller just for track geometry. I like it better than the crab tracks, which with just 2 road wheels look ridiculous. The transmission is horribly... Oh, that's the return roller, sorry. Or the idler. This is the transmission, horribly exposed. The exhaust pipe on the turret doesn't do anything. I think I explained that in the last episode. Suspension is minimized. They're the lowest settings for the torsion bars. This tank is so light it doesn't need barely any suspension. 2.6 liter 2-cylinder engine. Produces a whopping 30 horsepower per ton. 110 horsepower total. Sips fuel, barely anything. Transmission settings if you were interested. Fuel is just 10 liters, no fenders. Firepower, gun mount is the light mantlet with an integrated gunner's sight. The elevation mechanism is extraordinarily heavy for such a light, but is hand crank. Hit to minimize again. There we go. 1 degree per second. Absolutely awful. Which you saw that, and with the crew cramped, that continues to be a thing. Oh yeah, armor, non-existent. Don't need it. Wait, what? Oh, save some weight there. I missed a spot. Firepower barrel. This was optimized for absolute minimum barrel length to minimize the mass of the cannon. Since, as you can see here, that is a significant portion of the tank's weight, is just the gun and the breech. 81 millimeters for 0.2 meter required length. Minimum settings otherwise. Minimal shell length, the stub gun. Ammunition, I think that's supposed to be 30 even. And then the crew, minimum space, and that's part of why the gun aiming, we're going at 0.3 degrees per second when we have 1 degree available because of that inefficiency. That's kind of a review of the micro. My personal favorite was the tiny, which is 5 tons. Still super cramped. Still has quite a bit longer, 3 road wheels, hair wider, turret's a bit bigger. Settings for anybody who's curious. Oh yeah, do we have sponsored armor on? No, because we don't have sponsored. Mobility is quite the same with an exception. Rest angle is a little bit lower, sits lower to the ground. Doesn't have as much damping, which may be an oversight on my part. Still minimal tracks, or minimal throw weight, or unsprung weight. Engine is an 8 liter V6, producing 66 horsepower per ton for this 5-ton tank. Transmission settings for the curious. Fuel still minimal, no fenders. Same gun mount. Barrel length is almost half a meter for 50 millimeter. 50 millimeter, 450 millimeter long shell length. 26 rounds, since that fits. This one is my personal favorite. Traverses well, it elevates decently, which I forgot to look at that briefly. It handles well. I don't think it's quite as fast as the Triumph Taiga, being optimization. Yeah, it's just a little sluggish, but it's fast enough. For the most part, they might get a lucky hit and it'll one-shot the tank like that. And there's the corpse. See if they get lucky again. Stay up at around 80 kph. But sure, it takes a little bit to get up there, but And there, roasted. Ooh, he's not dead yet. Just burning. He might burn out, but let's help that process along. Alright, he's down. Steering still sticks a little bit at high speed, and that's the amount of RPM change between the gears. Oh, got roasted. That one's down. That one's down. A couple targets over there. This one is actually fun to drive. You are alive and moving. See if we can get it on the bounce. And our tank is slowly roasting. So you see it's still effective. That one's more of a trade because I wasn't trying to optimize. The gun laying, yeah, it has a little bit of, it has a powered elevation. And then there was the unadulterated power of the Triumph Taiga, which I took through all of the ages, proving it useful everywhere. It has a 60mm by 580mm shell, a good amount of penetration. They penetrate sides, not just backs. Does a fair amount of damage. Barrel's longer to handle that. Plenty of ammo. Powered turret. It's heavier. Does it have armor? Yeah, it has turret armor. It does not have hull armor. So it can actually bounce shells around the turret. And this was very similar to the design that we left off with yesterday. And I continue to just micronize it. We're kind of going backwards. You see, crew efficiency is not that great. And the stovepipe, I hadn't moved it over yet. And I leave that on simply for the quick identification of friendlies. I don't have enough parallax. Gotta worry about that guy, and he is way out to the east. Bounced. You can see it bounced off the top of the turret. Got engine killed though. Tank is got a little bit more beefy tracks. Probably some optimization that can still be done to this tank to make it a bit faster. But honestly, you don't need to go 80 kilometers per hour in a tank. It's absurd. And that's why I liked having the turret armor. It skips a lot. Oh, just as I was getting around. Yeah, not going so well, but I'm not playing at the best. So that was those tanks. But as we know, those tanks are a little bit silly. I wanted to go over the scenarios as well. No tanks land, which is I think that's the one I got through. Nope. Mark 1 Light V2 1.2 was my original tank the first day. So the transmission is probably horribly over optimized or under optimized. Turret. It's just decrease the angle. That'll give us a little bit more space. Check the suspension. Yeah, bring it down. Leave it under optimized. This is a Great War scenario. Engine tech is extremely limited. So the highest RPMs you can achieve is about 1500. And you basically have to cross a muddy, mucked up battlefield under artillery fire while taking fire from anti-tank guns and enemy tanks. There are no powered turrets, and you have to cross a minimum of 2 trenches. Unless that communication trench is wide enough, try to go down that. There are boards that you can use to help cross. They frequently explode, making it hard to cross. That's an idea of kind of what this mission is about. You have to get to the other side and kill 3/4 of the enemy artillery. Steering is hard because mud. One board survived. And then it's generally a good idea to get into Deflate and start returning fire. That should ricochet most of the stuff over there. I see you. Thought I saw you. Oh, yep, there you are. Low velocity shells. But you basically get the idea. That's the first scenario. The second scenario, which is the ambush. If you've watched the first introductory episode, you know what that one is. Dunes is interwar tech. So it's much like the ambush scenario. A tank for that might be something like this. Oh. Turret ring not getting saved. Or getting saved improperly. Max turret ring, something else is wrong. There's a lot of extra space involved in it. But it's desert, so you have to contend with sand. Not as bad as I originally thought. These are designs I made. Oh, I forgot. This one's a little underpowered. At least for hill climbs, as long as it's up to a rolling movement. The enemy appears across the dunes at really long range. I suspect having a sniper tank would be useful for this scenario. Gun velocities are still kind of slow. It still shot over it. Not that far away. And I really missed the stovepipe for identification. Is that a bad guy? I don't know. There. Roast one. That one's already down, I assume. But that's the Dune scenario. You just have to win the battle. Then there is the Silent Border, which I'm still going to load the tank that I won this scenario with. But fair warning, it is called Cursed for a reason. Turret basket. There we go, that'll do. It has headlights. This one, you simply have to cross the border. Hence the cross the border. However, you have to be well armored on the sides because there are ambush anti-tank guns in various locations, and minefields and other things, and it is awful and not a lot of fun. But if you make a heavily armored tank that slowly trudge along, no tank there. Like, the minefield is not instant death. You can go through it. Just, you're taking your life in your hands. Ah, I forgot to load ammo. That's basically that scenario. Then we get out of the early war and into mid-war, where we have the railway, which is just a battle. Yeah, in the battle. But with, oh no, it's early war. And I don't know what tank I used to pass this scenario. It may have been one of the versions Mark 6 Light Modern. Nope, that's mid-war. This was early war. I think I used the Mark 13 Cursed. Might have been the... yeah, because the UMO was done for a different scenario. It was mid-war. It's just simply the Battle of the Crossroads. You saw with the previous episode. That's against the King Tiger that's been souped up as a higher traverse rate, a little bit better gun. So we've seen that one. Then we have Fields and Taiga. Taiga we just saw a lot of. Fields is the same thing, but wide open fields. Again, a sniper tank might be useful. Or a late war scenario. Those are all the scenarios. I'm willing to take suggestions on what kind of tanks to do, historical recreations, which I will not do precise exact measurements. I will rough up a historical recreation, or reimagining is more my style, where it's like, okay, I'll do a Panzer IV or a Crusader or a T-34. I'll make those styles of tanks, but I'm not going to do an exact replica. That takes way too long. But kind of a reimagining, and then iterating upon it to see, okay, well, we did a rough T-34. What if we made it a little bit larger, gave it a little bit better engine, gave it a bigger gun? Let's make a T-34-85. Things like that. I have a feeling with the way the designer works for this game, it will take a long, every episode will be very long. So if you guys want a series out of this, don't expect frequent releases, maybe once a week. I know my other series are kind of doing that right now as well. But it might be every other week, because keeping this under an hour is going to be hard. So it'd be closer to the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought series in release schedule, possibly slower. But if you guys have the patience for it, I'll make the content for it. I do not mind at all. I'll push out a little bit more on the front end because I know there's a lot of interest, so I'll release more episodes around in this upcoming week around the episodes I already have recorded. Talking with my hand, and you guys can't even see my hand. That is cool. I'd originally had an idea, like, is this the breech block for the gun you have in thing? And no, that's not the breech block. That didn't seem appropriate, but it shows you the barrel for the gun that you have in the tank. It's kind of a holding for it. It is a breech block, but it doesn't adjust. That might be on the... Sorry, got distracted. That might be on the board for the developer to make. The game is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to making more realistic designs. But with that, I think I'll call this episode to an end here. I'm looking forward to suggestions, what people would like to see out of the series. If I look at my schedule real quick, I do have a slot open for Wednesday, as well as when this episode will go out, which is Tuesday, and then I have a slot on Saturday. So if you get the suggestions out quickly, I can look at doing something more realistic in the era. Like, you don't have to pick a scenario. If you pick an era, I'll see about making that tank, picking a scenario for that tank, or even just going into the sandbox, as it were. Which there's a nice sandbox for. Get the Taiga. Good, it loaded without any adjustments needed. Nice little obstacle course. I have a feeling it's going to bottom out and get stuck on these. Oh, no, it's riding them. Not handling it well, though. A little front heavy from the looks of it. Various widths of trenches. Oh, injured the driver. And also various slopes that are marked. 5, 10, 20, 25, so on and so forth. I think we made a crazy tank with broken when the suspension was still broken. That just had an unreal amount of ground force and ability. There's a road, there's kind of a cross-country route, a couple creeks, a shallow lake, there's various things around here. And you can spawn in enemies. What is it? There we go. And shoot at them. And you can shoot at various spots or angles to see how effective your gun is in an actual situation. I do believe they do not attack. Where did we go? Mid-war. Get a panther in there. Panther's mid-war? Oh, no, it's moving. Is it going to attack? Or does it just move? Yeah, it fires. Like that. And because we have a good turret and it can't fire at the hull because we're way too short. that's not penetrating. Get to the side, though. Ovate, get between the tracks. There should be good. Yeah. They do fire. Went through the commander's cupola. Skipped off the top. So there you have it. We're at the end of this episode. Appreciate you staying till the end. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'll look forward to the suggestions. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And I will see you all next time. Take care, everyone.